Hi, it's me, NCR here with another book review. This is actually the first physical book that I've read recently because I've been just reading ebooks, so of course I had to do a book review video on it. The book that I am going to be talking about today is Gilead. It's a novel by... I always butcher names, so I'm not going to say who it's by. You can find the full title of the book in the description of this video, and the name of the author in the description of this video, and also a link to where you can purchase your copy of the book in the description of this video. But before you probably want to purchase a copy, you probably want to hear my thoughts on the book. So let's get into it. Let's dive into it. So I found this book in one of those little free libraries. I don't know if you've seen one. They're in different locations all across North America. Little free libraries that you can take a book and leave a book and all that. So that's where I found this copy of Gilead. I've never actually heard of this book before, but it looked good, so I just picked it up. There is a paperback version of this book that is a part of Orpa's book club, but I have the hardcover version here. And right here it says it is a winner of the, I don't know how to pronounce this, Pulitzer Prize for Fiction. You know, it's really a cool prize to win, I guess, for certain people. For me, I'm just like, yeah, okay, I don't really care that it's won a prize. I can't even pronounce, what prize, Pulitzer, whatever, Puzzler Prize. It's a puzzling prize. I'm just gonna, If you are a book fanatic, you're probably familiar with whatever prizes the books can win and all that. So I'm not gonna go into detail on that. And so it is, out of the books that I've read recently, it is one of the most famous, one of the most well-known, one of the most prize-winning books that I've read recently. Because, I guess I should just back up and tell you what kind of books I like to read. I personally like to read books by young authors. I'm a young person, young Christian, and I like to read books by other young authors. Like, recently I talked about Golgotha here. It's by a young author. There's this other series, this book series, The Heirs of Netherland series. Book 2 that is coming out this summer. I'm going to be reading that and talking about that maybe here in this channel. And it's by a young author. And so I love reading, new books that are coming out now by young authors. There's another book that I may be reading this next week, Power in Time. Another book by a young author. So I love reading new books that are new. This one isn't too old here. This one was released in, let's see here, 2004. So I mean, it's not that old, 2004, but yeah. One of the older books that I've been reading recently, one of the most, and so the language in it is definitely a different format and a different genre of books than I've normally read. I guess you would call it classical fiction, or historical fiction, because it's a letter. So a bit about the book is it's kind of a one long letter from Reverend John Ames to his son, and I think it's. One thing I don't like about historical fiction is it almost seems like a true story because it's based on, real actual events. Like, I prefer fantasy because, it's all fiction. This almost seems like a true story. But it is purely fiction. And, it's purely fiction, but I do love the fact that it is historical fiction. And so I love the insight into different historical events, and it's based kind of, the name of the book is Gilead, and so it's kind of, I've discovered after reading this, or while reading this, that there's a series of books by this author on Gilead. There's a town somewhere, I forget where at, I don't even know, I just know that she wrote a book series on this town of Gilead, but I don't know if it's an actual even town in the world. I should have did more research before I recorded this video, but one thing I love is just she did some, historical research, and I love there's some historical details in the book that are really interesting. When I first started reading this book, I was expecting chapters, but it's not divided into chapters. It's just divided into it's not divided into anything. It's just kind of one long letter, kind of. I mean, there is paragraphs, so you can tell it wasn't all written in one day, because it's almost like reading a biography. But it's like a letter written from, like I said, Reverend John Ames to his son. And really interesting, there's so many, he told, funny stories of when he was younger. He told just recent of things. It's a really good, interesting read. No matter, I don't know, no matter who you are, whether or not you like this kind of reading. I don't know what kind of books you like reading, but this is definitely a good, interesting read. I was a little skeptical when I first started reading this book because I just didn't know what it would be like, but it turned out to be a really good read, and I really did enjoy it. And I would gladly give this book a 5-star rating. At times, as I was reading the book, I was surprised at the author's insight into like the mind and the feelings of the main character, John Ames. I'm not very good at pronouncing his back name, so that's why I don't like to say it for. But I was, I was surprised at just her insight into his mind and his feelings, and some of those feelings that he had like were almost feelings that I have sometimes had too. Really interesting, and just yeah, I really love that aspect of the book. Well, before I let you go, I just want to share a few of my favorite quotes from the book here. My mother's father was a preacher, and my father's father was too, and his father before him, and before that nobody knows, but I wouldn't hesitate to guess. So the reason I love this quote is just because he was a pastor, or a preacher, or a reverend, or whatever, and, you know, his mother's father, and his father's father, and so on, and I loved how, you know, because this is historical fiction, and how that has just been how it was in kind of in that time period of how, and even today, like, people are in that position because their parents were in that position, and their grandparents and their great grandparents, and there's some churches that are, you know, I just love how it's based in the United States, and just how like it kind of touches close to home because I'm from the United States. I mean, probably most of the people reading this book are maybe from the United States, and just the historicalness of it, and just how that is kind of how life is here, and how, but churches, being a young person, that kind of to me seems outdated. Yeah, I don't know. The quote just stuck out to me. Okay, next quote that just stuck out to me, just because it's a good quote, is adulthood is a wonderful thing and brief. And that was on page 166. I'm just going to open there and read it in context there. 100 and... where is that? Yeah, adulthood is a wonderful thing and brief. You must be sure to enjoy it while it lasts. And so just, some good advice there. I like that quote. And then, I should have took more notes of other quotes I liked to share too. So for one last quote that I'm going to share here from the book is, nothing true can be said about God from a position, from a posture of defense. Let me say that again. Nothing true can be said about God from a posture of defense. Really interesting quote there. Yeah, and I think, what really makes you think. And so, when I first started reading this book, I didn't know what to think. I didn't know that if it was going to be a Christian book. And so, I am a Christian, and I do read things that aren't Christian. I would be open to reading things that aren't Christian, but I found that this book is a very good book, and it is a Christian book, and I would totally say it's a great read no matter who you are, whether you're a young Christian person or an older person. This is a book that you'd probably enjoy reading. Well, that is it for my book review, that is it for my review of this book. If the things I said about this book interested you in getting your own copy of this book, you can find a link in the description to where you can purchase a copy of this book for yourself on Amazon.